Welcome back to the Creative Differences Podcast. I am Dallas, and if you're in the show Atlanta, you're probably one of my favorite actors.
I'm Colin, and yeah, people make things, and sometimes I like those people.
Sounds about right.
And I'm Demi, and I'm on the other end of that spectrum because I love actors, and I love talking about how great their performances are. Welcome to another episode of the Creative Differences Podcast, your one-stop shop for movie reviews, Fancast Fridays, Throwback Thursdays, and a number of other pop culture-related items. We are continuing on with our year in review, and we are going to be discussing our favorite actors of 2022.
Yes, we are. Before we get into it, please like, share, subscribe, hit the buttons, hit the bells, hit everything, so we can meet the people on our list one day, because I'm not Gaby. I'm not afraid of the people I like.
I want to work with these people. Let's go.
Yeah. Demi, would you like to tell them how this works?
Yes, I do. Hey, guys, we run this format in a very interesting way. We are doing a top 10. So we will go line by line, 10, 9, 8, 7, as one does. But if somebody says an actor that is on somebody else's list higher up, the other person will say skip, and we will wait until we have reached the round where the actor is at its highest point before discussing them.
Yes, for example, if Demi's number 9 is Jared Leto for Morbius, and Colin's number 1 is Jared Leto for Morbius, Colin would say skip.
Does.
What's up?
Why are you giving shit away?
And then we'll talk about it when Colin gets number 1.
We want people to watch the episode, bro.
I love that Dallas chooses the most absurd thing that would happen. It wouldn't happen.
I got to make sure I don't actually give anything away.
You are correct, but it's always like the furthest from the truth.
I try.
So far. All right, guys, you guys ready to start this off?
Being ready, let's do it.
Let's do it. We always start off with our honorable mentions. Dallas, do you have any honorable mentions?
I have 5.
Boom.
All right, my honorable mentions are Ben Schwartz, Chris Evans, Keke Palmer, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, and Oscar Isaac.
Colin, I'm going to ask you because I always do. Do you have any honorable mentions?
I do not.
All right, cool. I also have 5 honorable mentions.
Hey.
My honorable mentions are Kirby Howell-Baptiste for her role as Death on The Sandman, Iman Vellani for her role as Kamala Khan in Ms. Marvel, Mia Isaac for her role as Rowan in Not Okay, Austin Butler for his role as Elvis Presley in Elvis, and Sebastian Stan for his role as Tommy Lee in Pam and Tommy.
Oh, he's busy this year.
He is. He's very busy.
All right.
Let's get to number 10, shall we?
Let's get to number 10. My number 10 was my number 4 last year. It's one of my favorite whites, Ryan Reynolds.
Of course.
For The Adam Project and Spirited. Man, Ryan Reynolds is gonna Ryan Reynolds. He has a vibe, he has a lane, he sticks to it, and he's amazing at it. I don't go to him for being a chameleon. I don't go to him for doing something I wouldn't expect from him. But even with that being the case, I still can watch him and be surprised and impressed by his dramatic acting. Because there are scenes in Spirited that made me think, hey, Ryan, I came here to laugh. Why are you doing this to me?
For fun.
Yeah, just, all right, fine. Show off your talent. Make me sad. I get it. If y'all know me, you know he's one of my favorite actors. He's fantastic. He's hilarious. He's the reason I watched The Adam Project. He's the reason I watched Spirited, and I really enjoyed both of those movies. He's also in Welcome to Wrexham. He's not really acting. He's just being Ryan Reynolds, but I also love that. So, Ryan Reynolds, that's my number 10.
Colin.
All right. My number 10 is Amber Midthunder.
Nice.
That makes sense.
Yeah, she was fantastic in Prey. Obviously, when you carry a movie, you got to be good, but man,
it's true.
Acting.
You really do got to be really good to carry a movie by yourself.
Mm-hmm. And she did, and she was.
She's fighting a very large creature.
Yeah.
There's a bear somewhere in there. There's a mountain lion somewhere in there. And it's also a bit of a coming-of-age story.
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah.
She's doing it all, and she's doing really well. I think this is the first thing I've ever seen her in, and I was very impressed.
Really?
I didn't watch Legion.
You didn't watch Legion.
Yeah, I gave up after the first episode.
The first season and some of the second season were real good.
I've heard that. I just gave up after the first season. I think I gave up after the first episode because I was learning about avant-garde filmmaking at the time that it came out. And I'd been watching so much weird stuff for class that I was like, I can't do anymore. Not in my mainstream television.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Speaking of television, she was also on an episode of Res Dogs this year, and she was fantastic.
Oh, yeah, she was great.
Playing the opposite of her character from Prey.
And that was like right after Prey came out, too.
Yeah.
It was like within a couple of months.
Okay, Amber.
Range.
She does have a lot of range.
We love it.
Speaking of a lot of range, my number 10 is Jenna Ortega for her role as Wednesday Addams in Wednesday. I don't think I've been so compelled by a television performance in a while. Legitimately, from the moment that I saw the trailer, I was just like, her performance is really interesting to me and very compelling, very intriguing. I was always so interested in the way that she can emote. She's so expressive without being expressive. Because Wednesday Addams is such a deadpan character. She's very monotone, and she doesn't show a lot of emotion in her face. But Jenna Ortega somehow manages to show everything without showing you too much. Just with the slight flick of her eyes or turn of her head at a certain moment, or the way that she turns her head or the way that her eyes are moving. Even just the way that Tim Burton made her, she started doing this thing where she would tilt her head down and she would look at you through her eyelashes. And like just that very specific mannerism and demeanor when she's looking at people. She does not blink in any shot on this show. The way that that adds to the character as well. But even still, Wednesday still goes through an emotional arc. Even if she is not feeling things as big as everybody else does, she is feeling them and she feels them fully. She just shows it in a different way. So those moments where she is feeling that, when she does make those breakthroughs, it's so satisfying. Yes. And Jenna Ortega talked about how difficult it was to try and convey an emotional arc when there were certain directors who didn't want her to express emotion at all. And her trying to find a way to work within those sort of parameters of that character.
Right.
And she does a phenomenal job. And she got nominated for a Golden Globe for it. And I'm glad to see that she's getting recognized for that. She's fantastic as Wednesday Addams. And she kind of has to carry the show because she is the Wednesday in Wednesday.
Right. She's the titular Wednesday.
She is. This is the first time I've seen Jenna Ortega in anything, and I'm a huge fan just based off of this performance. It was incredible, especially because she had big shoes to follow because everybody loves Christina Ricci's portrayal of Wednesday so much, and she did a great job of making it her own. And I think it helps at making the character a teenager, whereas Christina Ricci was playing the character at the ages of like 10, 11, 12, something like that.
Yeah, you can do something different with it.
Yeah.
Teenagers are very different people.
Yeah, so that's my number 10, Jenna Ortega. Let's get into our number 9. Dallas?
Okay, so I was talking to me off mic about how we probably aren't going to have any skips because there's so many actors. It's a very varied field.
And we watch so many different things.
We watch different things, but I think this is a possible skip. Number 9 is Regina Hall for Honk for Jesus.
No, she's not on my list at all.
There it is.
But she is on Colin's.
There it is.
Colin, what's your number 9?
My number 9 is probably going to get skipped. It's Brian Tyree Henry.
Oh, skip.
Yep.
I love this.
I love it.
I'm not getting skipped. I typically have a rule for our actors list where I try to avoid doing ensembles or groups of actors.
Same.
That didn't work for me this year.
Oh, boy.
Because there were a number of roles or a number of things that I was watching where it was like, this doesn't work without all of these people.
Okay.
So my number 9 is Emma Darcy, Olivia Cook, Millie Alcock, and Emily Carey for playing Rhaenyra Targaryen and Alicent Hightower in House of the Dragon. Man, they're all so good. Every single one of them is so good at playing Rhaenyra and Alicent. Millie Alcock really set the tone with Rhaenyra when we first meet her for those first 5 episodes of the season. Made such a huge impression that when it came close to her time to leave the show, everybody in the fandom was like, I'm kind of concerned. I don't really want her to leave because she's doing such a great job. And I'm already so attached to the way that she portrays Rhaenyra that what if the next actor doesn't do as great of a job?
Right.
Emma Darcy does do a fantastic job. They are amazing as well as Rhaenyra. I said this when I did my review for House of the Dragon. What helps is that Emma Darcy and Millie Alcock are playing almost two different versions of the character because the character has grown and evolved in the 10-year gap or whatever that we see. And then the same thing with Emily Carey and Olivia Cook. They are also playing 2 somewhat different versions of these characters. So they have different things that they have to bring to the character and that they have to do. Millie Alcock's Rhaenyra is kind of rebellious and wants to be an adventurer, and you can feel that teenage spirit in her so alive and well, whereas Emma Darcy, they're so much more reserved, and they've changed because the world has forced them to change into somebody different. It's so good to see. And then Olivia Cook, oh my gosh. Alicent is such an interesting character to me because Emily Carey starts off the character as she's a teenager. She's 15 years old. She's a child, and she is kind of forced to do what the adult men around her want her to do.
Right.
And especially because she lives in a very patriarchal society. And she's so good at playing this innocence that Alicent still has, but there's still a little bit of not cruelty and not malevolence.
Okay.
But there is this understanding of why she behaves the way that she does because she's still technically a child and she's expected to be an adult. but she's 15, 16, 17 years old, being forced to have children and being forced to marry a king who is her best friend's father.
I like that.
She plays it so well. But Olivia Cooke's version has become someone who can be seen as possibly cruel and malevolent in the way that she acts towards Rhaenyra. But also there's this deep hurt underneath all that. There's a longing to be something different, to have what Rhaenyra has, this freedom that Rhaenyra has, because Alicent has none of it.
Mm-hmm.
Olivia Cooke is so freaking good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she comes in and I was just like, I'm a huge fan of yours now because you're so crazy good at this. I hate the things that you're doing, but I get it so much.
Yeah.
Because here's a woman who realizes that any ambition that she could have possibly had for herself, it was stamped out of her as a child and as a teenager. There's no possible way for her to desire for herself. She will continue this patriarchal society. She will push it forward because there is nothing else that she can have.
Right.
And the only thing that she can do is work towards the betterment of the men around her. She doesn't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
And it's insane how good all four of these people are at playing these characters. They're amazing. That's why I had to put all four, because I was like, I can't choose just one of them. It has to be all of them, because all of them are carrying these two characters and they're doing it so well. So that is why my number 9 is Emma Darcy, Olivia Cooke, Millie Alcock, and Emily Carey. Number 8.
All right. Number 8 for me is Jason Bateman for his role in Ozark.
Was Ozark this year?
Right? Ozark started in January.
Oh, okay, I see.
And then did the thing that Netflix is doing now. Part 1, January, part 2, April. I'm upset to say that I haven't seen his Murderville episode yet. It was a Christmas special. I haven't gotten to it. I'm sorry. But Ozark was enough. Jason Bateman is one of my favorite actors, and he has mastered the art of being the straight man, mostly in comedy. You put him in a comedy with some ridiculous person, maybe 2 ridiculous people if you're watching Horrible Bosses, and the way that he plays off of their comedy with his subdued, looking at you like you're an idiot energy is just one of my favorite things.
I don't know what I expected.
His whole thing in Arrested Development. And when you take that from comedy to drug cartel drama, it still works in a different way. But now, instead of people saying and doing stupid things, it's Jason Bateman sitting at a table, someone gets dragged away from the table and killed while he's sitting there. And now it's a very different kind of straight man, because you have this everyday suburban dad thrust into the situation and just doing his best when everything is going wrong around him. His wife is now a cold-blooded killer herself. The teenage girl he met when he moved there is his right hand, but also not sometimes. His son wants to be a money launderer. His daughter wants to be emancipated until she wants to get into the family business. It's just so much. And Jason Bateman handles it all so well. His character does not. Marty Bird is all a mess. But this is something that Gaby, remember Gaby? She talks about often, is that comedic actors are so good at doing drama.
They are. We talked about that with Adam Sandler during the favorite movies.
Yeah. And Jason Bateman is hilarious, but he's also fantastic in Ozark. That's why it wins so many awards, because everybody on there is fantastic. There's one scene in particular. Ozark came out in January, like I said, so it's kind of hard for me to remember specific things. But there's a road rage scene where he's getting into it with Wendy, and she's just in his ear yelling, "I hate you and everything you stand for." That's not the dialogue, but you get it. And this dude is just honking at them. If I could say who is the least believable person to get out of a car and beat somebody's ass, it's Jason Bateman. But he does just that, and it works somehow. He doesn't feel particularly intimidating, and the guy obviously is feeling the same way. Like, Jason gets out of the car, and he's like, "Oh, come over here and tell me what the problem is." And it's like, "Jason, get back in the car, Marty. You're not about that life." But then he just flips out, and it's this perfect, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just, Jason Bateman is doing his thing, and I love him. And I watch pretty much anything with him in it. And I'm so glad that Ozark happened, because it's one of my favorite shows ever. So yeah, it's Jason Bateman. Colin, who's your number 8?
My number 8 is Regina Hall.
Hey,
There you go.
There she is.
Yeah, I mean, honker Jesus, like, just like when you can go from dressed in mime makeup, being silly as shit, to being dressed in that same mime makeup, but given a really passionate monologue.
Yeah.
And that all just works and flows together, like, yes, absolutely.
Yo, I got 4 words for you guys.
I think I know what they are.
Knuck if you buck.
Oh my
that
God.
scene itself got her on my list. Obviously, the whole performance is fantastic, but just like that scene, the way it starts with Sterling K. Brown just going off. And the way she's sitting there looking like disapproving almost, like she has no real energy for it. She's just kind of sitting there and you think that she's just sick of him and his nonsense. And then when the next verse starts, she gives 150% into that performance. Regina Hall's amazing. I love her so much. She is Black excellence. And just playing the role in the role, because she's playing a character who has to put on a face and put on a smile.
That's what that mime makeup is for.
That scene where that woman runs up on her and is confronting her, and she has to try her best to be the first lady, the church woman. I forgive you. You know, I'm not going to engage with you in this hostility, blah, blah. By the end, she's screaming and cussing at that lady, too. And just the duality of that character. Regina Hall nailed all of it. She's been so good for so long. I'm so glad this movie happened. Yeah. Regina Hall, fantastic.
All right. I guess it's my turn. My number 8 is Emmy Raver Lampman for her role as Allison Hargreaves in The Umbrella Academy.
The Umbrella Academy.
My girl had a controversial season.
Ugh, God.
I loved Allison Hargreaves this season. Mostly because we talked about Black Panther being about grief. That is the more ideal path of grief.
Yeah.
Allison Hargreaves, her arc in season 3 is very much the cautionary tale of what happens if you decide to give in to those horrible, wretched feelings that you're feeling in the midst of your grief. And when you don't have somebody to help you carry it. Because she doesn't. I know a lot of people were mad at Allison, but I understood. Because here's a woman who back-to-back lost 2 people who matter most to her in this world. It was foreshadowed in season 2, which I loved because I was rewatching the show. And there's a line that I caught in season 2 where she says, if I lose this, I'll break, I'll crack. I don't know what I'll do.
Right.
Here comes season 3. She told y'all. She warned you. She said exactly what she was going to do.
Oh, boy.
And she did it. Emmy Raver Lampman plays her grief so beautifully, and that anger that comes with it, and that desperate cry for help without actually saying that she needs help.
Right.
Because she's constantly trying to keep it all together. Like, that's what she's doing all season. She just wants to keep the family together. Because she's already lost the 2 most important people to her in that family. And she's like, okay, well, this is all I've got left. They all need to stay together, and I need to find a way to save the other 2 people that I want most. And nobody wants to help her with that. Absolutely no one. I think Victor asks a few times how she's doing with the whole thing. But nobody's really helping her carry all that grief because they're all so trash. Every single one of them is trash.
This is a trash family.
It is a horrible family. They are completely toxic and unhealthy, which is why her grief, her reaction to it is so toxic because none of them know how to actually process grief in a healthy way.
It also sucks because they're all trash in their own specific ways.
Yes.
That culminate in this like Megazord Voltron trash. Like,
it's the dad's
Diego's
fault.
this kind of bad. Luther's this kind of bad. Allison's this kind of bad. Klaus is, oh boy, Klaus is a mess.
Yeah.
But man, it's
5 out here killing people.
5 is a legitimate serial killer.
There's one scene that I specifically want to point out. And it's actually, there are 2 scenes that actually come to mind when I think about her performance. The first one is when she rumors Luther.
Hate it.
Everybody does. I love that scene. Not because of her action. Well, I mean,
because to me, loves bad people.
To me, it's not beating the allegations.
Because I'm not justifying her behavior, but like what I love about Emmy's performance is that this doesn't spark until Luther tells her that he's leaving her. Until like he's like asking how she's doing, and she's clearly not okay. And he's like, okay, well, I said I was gonna go meet this girl that I just met yesterday. So peace. And she's like, are you serious? I'm not okay. Like, I could use somebody. I need somebody right now to help me out in some way, shape, or form. The way that Emmy Raver Lampman plays it, that sudden shift and the way that like triggers her and the anger that she feels, I was like, ooh, relatable. I know how that feels. To be like, I really need you right now. You're the one person I want to help me right now. And you're choosing somebody else that you don't know as well.
Right.
What she does after, I would never do. But I was like, ooh, the emotion she's playing, killing it. And then the scene that got me the most is the one where she's at the mirror and she's gripping the sink and she looks into it and she tries to rumor herself into being happy.
Right.
How many people out there know that feeling of like feeling so depressed and so low that like you're looking into the mirror and trying to convince yourself that you're happy? Like trying to gaslight yourself into being a happier person in this situation and in this moment.
Right.
And I was like, this is just such a relatable moment. And just, she's playing this grief throughout and she does it so well, which is why I hated the backlash that it got, because I was like, she's doing such a good job. And it all makes sense.
I mean, there's no backlash on Emmy, though, right?
I don't think on Emmy, but on the character.
Yeah, okay.
That character's always gotten a lot of backlash. But I think Emmy has always played really well the fact that Allison is a character who has never known restraint, because she's never had to know restraint. She was trained to use her powers whenever she wants to, and even to use them for things that are morally questionable by her father. So
a very morally questionable man.
Beyond. This is why they're all trash. I think she plays that through line throughout her character, and it's been a thing for 3 seasons that this is a character who would love to know how to restrain herself and has tried to restrain herself. Her power is almost like an addiction, and she has to choose actively not to use it.
Right.
And then this season was the season where she relapsed. She lost everything. Like when people get into grief and they turn to like drugs and alcohol, like this was her drugs and alcohol.
Right.
And Emmy plays it, man. She's playing it. She's killing it. Oh, I cannot wait for the next season to see what Allison does. Allison has always been my favorite Hargreaves sibling.
It's funny because CJ the X has that video on WandaVision where he likens Wanda's powers to her addiction.
Yeah.
In the way that she uses it. And it's very similar. And it's funny because, you know, of course, both of these characters resonate with you because Demi likes bad people.
I think in recent weeks or months, I have realized that I think I like being able to see the possibilities of what happens in that rage, when you feel the freedom to feel that sort of rage and anger. These are actions that you definitely should never take.
Right.
They're not good actions, but I like the freedom in exploring that emotion to its extent.
Right. Like the things that we would never do.
Yeah.
The things just like see what that potential is.
But I prefer it in fantasies, obviously.
Yeah.
In fantasy sci-fi, a lot of my favorite characters are fantasy sci-fi people who occasionally dip into gray morality.
Right.
Because it's like, yes, let's explore how bad things can get. But in those shows, you can always come back.
Yeah. But yeah, Emmy's great because I can say as someone who hates Allison in this season, Emmy was killing it. So it covers both sides of the Allison spectrum. If you love her or you hate her, you got to admit Emmy Raver-Lampman was doing her thing.
I'm going to say again, just that scene in if you've never seen the show, just watch the scene of her at the sink. It breaks my heart every single time. Number 7.
Right, number 7. My number 7 was an honorable mention last year.
Nice.
Mr. Bashir Salahuddin for Sherman's Showcase and Southside. Shows that he created, writes, and stars in. This man is one of the funniest people on TV. Southside, at the time of this recording, has not finished its newest season. I'm about 3 episodes in. But just the range he shows from playing Sherman in Sherman Showcase to Sandy in Southside. Sherman is just pure ego and just flashiness, ridiculous selfishness. But also because it's a sketch show, Bashir has to play different versions of different characters and all that nonsense. And he's great every time. And then Southside, the best way I could describe his character on Southside, Colin, is he squares a block.
Oh.
He's playing a cop, which ACAB, first of all, but also he's playing a cop who no one respects him. His partner, played by his wife, Chandra Russell, is just this like aggressive hood, I don't want to deal with you type character. And their dynamic is fantastic. Also added to the chemistry that they have being married in real life. My main thing here is, audience, y'all need to watch both of these shows because not enough people are watching either of them, and they're both amazing. This dude is hilarious. He was also in Top Gun Maverick, but I did not see that.
He was great in that movie.
I would imagine he would. Dude got range.
I feel like actors like that usually end up being like comic relief in those types of movies. And like, yes, there are some funny parts with him in it, but really he's kind of like the only guy who trusts Maverick to do the things he does, even when Maverick is doing things that you shouldn't.
Of course.
He's always like, he always has Maverick's back.
I love that. Did Cyrano come out this year or last year? Or 2022 or 2021?
Both.
Okay, it's one of those.
Yeah.
I know, there's a lot of movies like that. But yeah, Bashir was also in Cyrano. I didn't watch that either.
I planned to watch that. It was on I really wanted to see it, and I still haven't seen it.
But yeah, dude's showing his range as an actor and a writer, showrunner, all that. He's just fantastic. I can't get enough of him in his comedy. I am once again coming to you to tell you to watch Sherman Showcase and Southside. That is my number 7. Number 7.
We are on 7. Colin, what's your number 7?
My number 7 is an interesting one because it's probably the least amount of screen time for a person that got them on my list.
Okay.
And it is Andrew Lincoln, specifically for the one episode of Cabinet of Curiosities that he was in.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that the last one?
Yeah, I love that episode.
I did not expect Andrew Lincoln to pop up on your list for that. That's wow.
Right?
Okay.
But like honestly, I mean, as a story about like a ghost story, but also a story about this couple and their marriage and like trying to like reconcile after they've like lost a kid, man, they sell that shit. And he does, I think, an extremely good job as like the one trying to keep them together, but like just it's so good. As much as, you know, we may make fun of Carl. Man's good. Man's real good at what he does. Like I didn't even know it was him. It took me a while to realize that was him because it was just like I was not used to that. He's that good.
He was great. And man, he just wanted to drop it in some draws and his wife wasn't having it.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's not the whole plot, but you know, that's what I took from it.
I'm concerned, but I'm not going to ask further
It's
questions.
a bit reductive, but hey.
Shout out to Andrew Lincoln.
All right. My number 7, we're back to ensembles
All right.
for a while.
Okay.
My number 7 is the cast of Exandria Unlimited. This is a lot of fun because I do not consider Critical Role a TV series. However, I can put the actors on my list.
They are acting.
Cast of Exandria Unlimited. There were 2 separate casts for this show. The first one being Exandria Unlimited Kaimel, which stars Anjali Bhimani, Amy Carrero, Robbie Damon, Erica Lindbeck, Matthew Mercer, and Abria Iyengar as the DM. And then we have Exandria Unlimited Calamity, which stars Luis Carrazzo, Abria Iyengar, Marisha Ray, Sam Riegel, Travis Willingham, Lou Wilson, and Brennan Lee Mulligan as the DM. I freaking love D&D. It's just so fun to watch people play D&D. Kaimel was just a really fun experience to watch. I already loved most of the characters that these actors were playing, and I love their chemistry together. They're just so much fun. That's part of it, is that these people playing this game and playing these particular characters are so much fun. Anjali Bhimani is playing kind of like a motherly, maternal role for these characters and trying to keep them like in line. Matthew Mercer's character is such a himbo. And Amy Carrero's character is this ball of sunshine who also knows nothing about the world, but also is now wearing the dark crown of a betrayer god. It's amazing. It's great. And then they're being reunited with Robbie Damon's character, who is this traveling bard who also is basically a prince. And it's just seeing them all reunite after the first season of Exandria Unlimited last year, which was like 8 episodes. There's a chemistry there. They're all so good together. And then we have freaking Calamity, which is one of the best pieces of storytelling I've seen all year.
Nice.
Colin had Brennan Lee Mulligan as his number 1 favorite actor on his list last year.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, who is this person? Why does he keep ending up on Colin's actor list? I don't know who this is. And watching him DM Calamity, I was like, I get it. He's so good. And he's such a good storyteller. And just also, Calamity is, from jump, you know, going into the story, that it's a tragedy. Okay. You know that there's no possible way for it to end well. There's nothing that these characters can do to change the fate of what's going to happen because it is the history of stories that we have already been told and that we've already seen. We know that it ends horribly. It's a 4-part series. You start off like, it's a lot of fun. We're having fun. These characters are very entertaining. Watching Sam Riegel and Abria Iyengar play a divorced couple, absolutely hysterical. And they're amazing together as these 2 people who probably shouldn't be together, but also I ship them so much. Oh my gosh, thank God. And Marisha Ray plays a character that, unlike any other that I've seen her do before, Brennan Lee Mulligan, that story that he put together for them, it's so tragic and it's so sad. Like, you're really hoping against hope that these characters can come together and stop what's going to happen, but you know that they can't. And I think for me, why these sets of casts made it onto my list is because when you're watching a D&D show, it's all improv. There's no script. There are no lines. There's no dialogue. All these people are making this up as they go.
Right.
And some of these character interactions are perfect. Like, if I saw these character interactions in a movie, I'd be like, oh my God, this is a beautiful moment. This is beautifully written. But this is literally just people coming up with this stuff on the spot. Mm-hmm. And it's somehow still so dramatic. And also, most of the time, the dice are determining what you're doing. The dice are deciding how the story is going to go, what path your characters are going to take. And some moments are incredibly funny, and the actors play with these natural ones that they get and these horrible mistakes that their characters are making. And sometimes they play it off in a very funny way, in a very funny manner, and it's great. And then sometimes you have to deal with the tragedy of the moment. And sometimes there are moments that are triumphant and joyous. But at the end of the day, these moments are all being created by this group of actors. And it can't be done without this group of actors.
Right.
Which is why I was like, I can't choose just one of them. Because all of them worked together to put these stories together. And they did it on the go.
Yeah.
So my number 7 is the cast of Exandria Unlimited.
Nice, nice, nice.
Which takes us to number 6, Dallas.
My number 6 is Letitia Wright.
Skip.
Okay.
I'm gonna count this as a skip.
Okay.
Oh, 6. That's what we're on. We're on 6.
Yeah.
We're on 6.
Love that. My number 6 is Sophia Rosinski, who played Mac in Paper Girls, which got 1 season and then got canceled, and it made me sad.
Sorry, buddy.
The show was really fun. Sophia playing the asshole who actually has a lot going on and is really sensitive but covers it up with being an asshole. That's always a fun character. And once you understood why she was covering it up and why she was being such an ass, it's oh man, you're doing some acting. We love this for you.
Right.
It's a show with, all 4 of the girls are awesome, but I just felt like she, I don't know, just stood out to me as oh man, you are doing some major acting. And I wish that show had been renewed for the 2nd season, and it was not.
I know the vibe.
Amazon stopped spending so much money on Lord of the Rings.
You hate to see it.
All right. So my number 6, continuing on with this, it's the cast of The Legend of Vox Machina and Critical Role, which consists of Laura Bailey, Taliesin Jaffe, Ashley Johnson, Liam O'Brien, Marisha Ray, Sam Riegel, Travis Willingham, Matthew Mercer, and Gray Griffin, who is on The Legend of Vox Machina.
Right.
The other 7 are all on Critical Role, but Gray Griffin is added for Vox Machina. Because originally, it was just the cast of Vox Machina.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was religiously watching Critical Role, and I was like, no, legitimately, these guys also just by themselves. Also, note, half of them were already on my actors list for the cast of Exandria Unlimited.
Yes.
First off, Legend of Vox Machina, amazing. I talked about it yesterday. Such a good show. All of these guys are professional voice actors.
Nice.
They've all been doing voice acting for years. It's what they do. That is actually their careers.
Right.
And this D&D thing is apparently paying off really well. I think it also just helps that all these people created these characters. It's not like we're coming in and some writer wrote these characters and now we have to breathe life into them. No, we created these characters in order for us to breathe life into them ourselves.
Right.
These are characters that I wanted to play and I wanted to see where their adventure would lead them. And Legend of Vox Machina, they had already done this adventure and now they're kind of condensing it into a TV show size portion. And also Gray Griffin, one of the best voice actresses.
She's fantastic.
Ever. She plays Delilah Briarwood on The Legend of Vox Machina. So good. Amazing. Delilah is so devoted to her husband. And so even though Silas and Delilah are evil, oh my gosh, they're evil. You can't help but respect how in love they are with each other.
Okay.
And they play, her and Matthew Mercer play that love so very well. It's yes, you guys are evil, but I wouldn't mind having a love like yours.
Interesting.
me and one of my best friends, one of our favorite things about them is they as a couple are a I would break the world for you couple,
Word.
Which I'm into. But also on the Critical Role front, again, the same thing as I was saying with Exandria Unlimited. These are stories that are being told in an improv fashion. All of these actors are creating this story on the go with the help of some dice and with Matthew Mercer to guide them along the way. Obviously, he has kind of a trajectory of where he wants them to go, but things can change when you're having people who are in charge of improving and playing out their own characters and their journeys, as one does as an actual person. Laura Bailey, I have so quickly fallen in love with her acting style with this character that she plays, Imogen. I'm you're gonna kill me one day with how emotional you play this character. Watching Critical Role, all you're doing is watching people sitting in chairs at a table, rolling some dice, and they are talking to each other.
Right.
But I'm so immensely invested in what they're doing. And I think Laura Bailey is consistently in character.
Okay.
Even when she's not having her character say anything, sometimes you can look at her face and she's making a facial expression in reaction to what other characters are doing around her character. And she's just playing the character.
Gotcha.
It's not just, oh, I'm going to say my dialogue and then I'm going to be out of it. She is in it the whole time. And it's insane. And it's painful with Imogen because Imogen, at one point during the current campaign that we're on, lost the person that we're very certain is the love of her life.
Yikes.
In an interview that they were doing, Matthew Mercer asked her, or no, it wasn't Matthew Mercer, it was one of the other girls, asked her what her character's favorite thing is about the world.
Mhm.
And she was like, I think my character's favorite thing about the world is Laudna, who is her character's best friend. They've been traveling together for a long time, played by Marisha Ray. And then 2 months later, that character died. And it was just like, it was like, oh my gosh. And Laura Bailey just played that loss and that sorrow insanely well. It hurt every week until we finally got Laudna back. It's insane, the things that you can do, the things that they can do, and they're just sitting at a table.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wanted to use Laura Bailey specifically as an example. But all these people are so good at what they do, whether it be voice acting or just sitting at a table playing D&D. They are always engaging and intriguing and compelling, which is why they are number 6 on my list. It takes a lot of work to get people to be interested when they can't really either A, see the action that's happening, or B, only hear your voice and not actually see you, the person.
Right.
And they're doing both constantly. That's my number 6. Top 5.
Top 5. My number 5 is... I'm having a Gaby moment. Not a moment where I realize that I messed up my list,
Oh, no.
but a moment that I think on the fly I might want to rearrange it. So my number 5 is also my number 5 last year, Damson Idris for Snowfall.
Nice.
Dude is just so good. He's been impressing me for 5 straight seasons on this show, and he just never ceases to impress me. Say what you will about the show's newest season, it goes to some weird places. I told you guys about the tiger running through the streets of LA.
Oh, yeah.
You did.
I told you guys about the doctor lady who kind of gets off on
Oh, yeah.
hurting people,
Yeah.
Yeah.
literally. I told you guys maybe about the chocolate fountain at the wedding that was laced with LSD.
I think
Don't know
so.
if you told us about that
Okay.
one, but
No,
all right.
I know. I think that was brought up.
Maybe.
I remember a wedding.
Okay. But that episode leads to one of the scenes that I find to be the most impressive, where Franklin Saint, Damson Idris, is acting against himself. He's leaving a room and then he hears, I wouldn't do that, nigga. And he turns around and it's him, just dressed differently. And whenever a person has to play 2 versions of a person or, act against himself, I'm always loving it. I'm like, yes, give me that.
Same.
And he does it so well because he's on a drug trip and he's dealing with his guilt and he's calling himself out on all of the things that he's done. And of course, he's pretending that he doesn't feel guilty. He's like, oh, what? Because I decided to make something of myself and I don't have to kiss the white man's ass or something like that. And then he retorts, obviously, with all of the people that Franklin has directly or indirectly led to the deaths of. And man, it is a list. He's listing people from season 1, names I forgot, like, oh my God, Carvel, forgot about that dude. And the scene was going around Twitter all over the place because you just have Damson Idris in this beautiful blue lighting, by the way, talking about all the people that they've plotted on and gotten rid of. And he gets to a point where he's like, your dad, Khadijah, Carvel, blah, him, her, him. And people were saying that it sounded like a Kendrick Lamar verse, which I found to be hilarious and true. And then he ends up yelling just bodies over and over again because he got all these niggas killed. And that's the reason that when that movie came out, every time I heard the title Bodies, I could only think of this scene. And I was like, I know I'm not the only one doing this. Never saw the movie, but I heard it was good. But yeah, Franklin Saint, Damson Idris, he's fantastic. I want him to get more roles. One of the best British dude coming over to do an American accent. They're great at it. He's great. Snowfall's great. Even if you didn't like the season, shut up. It was great. That's my number 5. Colin, where we starting your top 5?
My number 5 is Ray Fiennes.
Oh,
The Menu.
That makes sense.
Acting. The unhinged nature of everything he did throughout that entire movie.
Yeah.
But the way he could he presented it all as this calm, oh no, it's totally fine, everything's totally cool. There's a whole monologue he gives right before someone shoots themselves. That's it starts off fine and then it's like, oh no, it's getting worse, it's getting worse. I mean, that's the entire movie.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
God, he's just so good at being almost detached from what he's doing, but still really invested at the same time.
Yeah, you can tell how he's saying the things gives a detached energy, but what he's saying tells you exactly how much this all means to him. The way he speaks, the way he does everything. It's like, oh, this dude is serious about all of this. But he doesn't really ramp up. He doesn't scream.
No.
He raises his voice the way a chef will, give his kitchen staff an order with a raised voice and they'll clap and say, yes, chef. But he's calmly talking to all these people, despite the fact that in his mind, they all deserve to die.
Not to mention, special shout out to student loans.
Yes. Fantastic.
Man's just so good. throughout the entire movie. And like, I think after we saw it, you know, one of the things that you said, Dallas, was one of the things that you were most interested in was like, you don't necessarily have a good reason for doing everything you're doing. And he doesn't. I feel like he knows he doesn't, but he's still doing it. And it's just like, acting.
He's devoted.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rafe was fantastic.
All right. So my number 5 is the cast of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, which is why I skipped you first. Yeah. So Letitia Wright, Angela Bassett, Lupita Nyong'o, Denai Guerrera, Tenoch Huerta, and Winston Duke, along with a bunch of other people. Those are the main ones, though. Yeah, everybody had their A game on, man. This could not have been an easy movie to act in.
Right.
They lost somebody who was particularly close to them. It's not just like, oh, we lost, like, we're killing off the character T'Challa. Like, no, like, his actor died and all these actors were close to him. Like, Letitia Wright considers that man to be her brother. He called her his little sister.
Yeah.
So imagine going to make a movie where the first time you made this movie, like, it was a family experience for all of you. You built this little family and going back to it and one of you is gone and you're never going to see him again. And on top of that, the movie revolves around that feeling.
Yeah.
And having to enter that emotional space every day.
It's a rough one.
That's what this cast was doing. A lot of people had doubts about how well Letitia Wright would do leading a movie. And we talked about it in the review, how she didn't really have to. It was a really great ensemble piece, but she's kind of leading the ensemble. And she's amazing. She's great.
She killed it.
This girl almost made me have a breakdown in the middle of the movie. Ugh, her screaming for her mother. I won't get over it. I can't get over it. Everything she does, man. The anger, the grief, the sadness, the depression, but also still giving us the hints of the fun Shuri that we loved in the first movie, the jokes, the eagerness for new knowledge and information. Like, it's all there. And then Lupita Nyong'o, her performance, she's so killing it, bro. Playing a character who has lost the love of their life and, spoiler alert, has his child, now has to raise that child on her own, has probably been raising that child on her own the entire time. Because if you think about it, she had the kid during the snap.
Right.
So
T'Challa got snapped out of there.
Yeah, T'Challa didn't really get a lot of time with this kid. And Lupita said that she took a lot of inspiration from Chadwick Boseman's actual wife, from his actual wife and the way that she carried herself after he passed.
That makes sense.
Nakia does have a lot of strength through this movie, more so than I think all of the characters. I think she's the one who's most stable in the aftermath of that.
Okay.
The scene with Denai Guerrera and Angela Bassett.
Angela's going off on her.
They both have an Oscar off. They like, which one of us gonna get the supporting actor now? Go.
Angela was going hard.
So was Denai Guerrera though. Like, like, because she doesn't say as much,
right? But
she has to take it. And her reaction to it.
She has to do more with her face.
Yeah.
Then like she doesn't get to yell, but she did it.
She did. Winston Duke's character, M'Baku becomes so much of a better man since that first movie when we first met him. He is so much better, and it's such a small. He doesn't have a lot of screen time,
right?
But he plays that arc so well with so much emotion and sadness, but with so much strength as well, knowing that he has to help carry these women and help them carry their grief so that they can move forward. Tenoch Huerta as Namor. Man, Namor. What a character. What a guy.
What a guy.
What a guy. He is playing that character so well. The anti-hero. That balance of, I'm the antagonist of this movie, but I'm also not a bad guy. Everybody was killing it on this one. Everybody brought their A game. They ate. There were no scraps left behind. There was nothing left but what was put in that film.
They went off, as they should.
They went off. It took me a while to put this on my list. And then I was like, oh, I got to put the cast of Black Panther. And I was like, but where? Where does this go? Every single one of them were phenomenal and gave such poignant performances. One of the things that Ryan Coogler does really well, the first Black Panther movie, all the supporting characters kind of reflect different worldviews and opinions of T'Challa himself, and they're all pulling him in different directions as to what he should believe and what he should choose. And then in this movie, all the supporting characters represent a different aspect of grief that Shuri has to explore.
Yeah. We talked extensively about that in our review and on our favorite movies episode.
Yeah.
We said a lot about Black Panther.
We have. We have not said everything that should be said about this movie, but...
Because it's too dope.
It's too much. It's too dope. And we don't have the time on this podcast. But all props to Letitia Wright, though, because I did feel everything that she was feeling on that screen. Like, you could feel it. It was palpable. Everything.
And in addition to everything she does in Black Panther, she's also on my list because she's the best part of Death on the Nile, a movie that a lot of us probably forgot even happened.
I forgot that happened this year.
Right. She's the best part of that movie.
She's so good in that movie, too.
Sophie Okonedo.
Yeah.
They're the best parts of that movie. Extra points for Letitia on this year's acting list.
She also had that other movie that came out this year, too,
Yeah, I
that we
didn't see
did
that.
not see.
Something about the twins.
Yeah,
Silent
yeah.
twins, the crying twins.
Yeah, because when we watched that trailer, we were like, is this a horror movie? And then it wasn't.
Yeah.
That was such a weird marketing tool, but all right.
So yeah, definitely, I didn't see that. But yeah, shout out to Letitia. She's
Well,
doing
no,
her thing.
I didn't see it either, but the trailer itself, like the first half felt like a horror movie, and then the second half felt like a drama, and it was
Yeah,
like,
it's
what?
like, oh no, this is just a sad movie.
It's just a sad drama. Cast of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, you guys did your thing. We're very proud of you guys for getting through all that. Also, all the underwater breathing that they had to learn how to do. You know,
Couldn't be me.
couldn't be me. Number 4.
Number 4. My number 4 is my number 9 from last year, Miss Zazie Beetz
Hey,
for The Bad Guys, Atlanta, and Bullet Train.
Zazie be working.
She's so great in everything. I guess going in chronological order. Her character in The Bad Guys is just so cool. She plays Diane Foxington. She's a really good voice actress. And she brings this level of just this cool energy to this character that even in animation, they do some things to make this character stand out from just your average walking, talking fox that Gaby would be attracted to
Stop
type
it.
of character.
Stop it. She's not here.
I mean, hey, you know it's true.
I am not a furry guy.
But yeah, she's one of the standouts from that movie. In Bullet Train, she doesn't have a lot of screen time. She definitely makes an impression.
Well, that's sad to find out.
Yeah, I didn't have a lot of gripes with that movie. Pretty much none. But if there was something I would change about it, it would be give me more Zazie. But her energy is just insane in that movie. And I like that she made an impression with the small amount of time that she got. But Atlanta is the real reason she's on this list because
That Tyler Perry episode, or whatever his name is on the show.
that episode and the episode where she's having her little Amelie adventure.
Oh, those were both in the same
Yeah,
year.
same
And
year.
the camping episode. She's really good in the camping
She's good in
episode,
all
too.
of these. From the moment that she sees her friend and she's like, Van? And the Van turns around and goes, no. To her chasing down Hands for a meal, antagonizing Alexander Skarsgård, beating up a dude with a baguette,
She was wild in
all
that
of this
episode.
unhinged energy that culminates in a breakdown and then a monologue at the end is just this one episode shows so much acting range and it's comedic, it's dramatic, it's downright terrifying sometimes. But yeah, Zazie's killing it. Give her an Emmy for that alone.
It's the TV studio, or the movie studio one for, well, I guess it's both. It's a studio episode for me. Because,
Oh, with Mr. Chocolate?
yeah, with Mr. Chocolate, that's his name. Because she is so good at playing. Like, I love the Hands episode because of the anxiety attack that she goes through, like this crisis of identity.
Right.
And then I like that the next time we have like a solo episode of her, it's legitimately just a whole episode of her being a mom and
Yeah.
showing how good of a mom that she can be. But also that, like, yo, parenting is hard, bro.
Yes.
You're going to make mistakes. She's really good in that episode because it follows her throughout the entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Put her in everything. You guys already are putting her in everything, but put her in more of everything.
Yeah, she isn't a lot, and we're here for it. That episode's ridiculous. I don't know why Donald decided to go at Tyler Perry like that.
Most of them are ridiculous. Although, like, I also really like her in the last episode too with the Popeyes. And they
yeah.
go to the sushi restaurant. And she's like, I really want to go to the Popeyes. Why do you think I sat with my back to the window?
It's all ridiculous. I love it all. But yeah, that's Zazie. She's fantastic.
Colin, what's your number 4?
My number 4 is Matt Berry for playing Laszlo in What We Do in the Shadows.
Okay.
Like, that show bangs. It bangs every season. It's so good. But Laszlo is just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at being what you would expect of, like, a vampire from the 1800s. But, you know, ridiculous because that's what the show is.
Of course.
The things he does with his voice and his face, he's just so good at being silly and perfect. And in a show full of like silly and perfect people, he still stands out, I feel like, which is impressive. He fucks. That show fucks. Y'all should watch it.
I've been thinking about it. It looks very silly, but
I would highly recommend
I
it.
also really want to watch the movie.
I would highly recommend that too.
Probably should start there.
That's where I'll be starting.
I mean, you don't need to be honest.
It doesn't look like
Um,
I would need to, but that's just where I would want to.
If you're going to ingest all the content, you might as well start from the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so my number 4 is Stephanie Hsu. For,
Skip.
Yeah, I
Oh,
figured
there
as
we
much.
is.
But yeah, for her role as Joy Wang / Jobu Tabaki in Everything Everywhere All at Once.
All right. Number 3, top 3.
Top 3.
My number 3 is Laura Linney for Ozark because everyone on this show, in the main cast at least, deserves awards. And I've said before, Ruth is definitely the best character on Ozark, but Laura Linney might be giving the best performances consistently. It goes back and forth. Sometimes it's Laura, sometimes it's Julia. The way she switches from a suburban housewife to a ruthless monster is insane. I said in our movie episode, Hell Hath No Fury Like a White Woman's Entitlement.
Yep.
There's a level of unhinged that is there with Wendy Bird that I could only compare to Scarlet Witch. Like, she's about what she wants, and if you try to take that from her, she will go off in more ways than one. Like, there's the scene with, for those who watch the show, Darlene, the crazy old hillbilly lady, who is terrifying. And she runs up on Wendy, and Wendy is at this point decided, you know what, I'm not afraid of you. Do what you're going to do. And Darlene says, you know what? And the way that Wendy steps in her face and says, what, Darlene? I jumped back onto the couch. I was like, what? What are you doing? I had to, like, I rewatched that scene today because I was like, oh, it hits. And on the other side, if intimidation and antagonism doesn't work, they reveal things about this character. Like, of course, she's had a terrible home life. Her dad sucks. He was an alcoholic. He was abusive. He's an old Southern white man with everything that comes with that. There's this arc of Wendy being told by her father, because her father comes back into town, that she's hard to love. It doesn't seem like something like that would affect Wendy now, because she's cold, she's closed herself off, she's about that bag. But there's something that happens involving her dad and her kids, and she's pleading with him. And the way she does it, she like gets down on her knees and is like screaming. And it's so uncomfortable as it would be for anyone in this situation. But to see a character like this be reduced to that, and the way Laura Linney plays it so well on both sides. Like, I can be on top of the mountain, I can be the queen of all this, but also I'm not above begging for what I want. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. And it's rough. And then after that scene, she gets in the car and just slams her head on the window. It's terrifying. Like, I was like, oh, she's really breaking down. Like, she is playing this level of not okay so well.
See, I'm not the only person who likes bad people.
I don't like Wendy. I like Laura Linney. But I do understand how you could be compelled by bad people, because Wendy as a character is one of the most interesting I've seen in a long time. Laura Linney, give her everything. She's fantastic. That's my number 3. Colin.
Allegations.
We have no allegations. What's your number 3?
I don't know. We might get there. Anyway, Jimmy, you are free to speak now, because number 3 is Stephanie Hsu.
Thank God.
Hey.
It's funny because, no, actually, yeah. So Stephanie Hsu.
Fucking, oh my God.
I was thinking to myself, because Dallas was talking about how unhinged Laura Linney's performance is as this character. And I was looking at my list and I was like, wow, I really don't have a lot of unhinged performances on here. I mean, Marisha Ray is a little bit unhinged. Hold on. The Critical Role cast is always unhinged. But I was like, I don't really have any unhinged. And then I looked at Stephanie Hsu and I was like, no, that's completely unhinged. Everything about that is just chaos and unhinged. And I love every second of it. Except for when she's being Joy, because Joy is a normal freaking human being. Jobu Tupaki, though, just unhinged freedom. Just do whatever you want. And Stephanie Hsu is playing with that to the best of her ability.
I mean, girl, like, and the thing is, you know, how many times does she have to switch between the two?
Oh, God, so many.
Throughout the movie, and just is impeccable every time.
Yeah, this is the playing two characters thing that Dallas was talking about earlier, because I am also very fascinated by that when people do that.
Mm-hmm.
She is one person at one moment and then another person the next. It's crazy how well she's going back and forth between them. But like, yeah, the character has to do a lot of crazy things. You have to kind of let go of your inhibitions and any sort of like self-consciousness that you might have and just go with it.
Yeah.
And Stephanie Hsu does that. And she doesn't just do it in the movie. Like I said, I said it in the favorite movie episode. If you see her audition, she's just as unhinged in that audition. I absolutely see why you would give her the role, because there is no shame, there is no inhibition, there's nothing that is stopping her from just being. And that is so impressive as an actor. That's what you want out of an actor.
Yeah, you got to go for it.
She's amazing. I want her in everything. we were talking about Zazie Beetz being in everything. I also want Stephanie Hsu in everything. I want her to get the Oscar nom. Oscars, we fighting. If we don't.
For real. Like, I cannot wait to see what she does next.
I want to say she's been announced to be in something.
I think so.
Ooh.
I think we've seen her name since this has come up.
Yeah, she's so good. Yeah, that character is so unhinged and makes one of the best character entrances I've ever seen. But also when she's doing her villain monologue, you're just so compelled to listen to her.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we hear villain monologues all the time. So, you know, sometimes you start not necessarily tuning them out, but you're like, yeah, I know what portion of the movie this is.
Right.
But like, her villain monologue is so good, and just it's so compelling because of the way that she plays it.
Mm-hmm.
It's unlike any other villain monologue you've probably ever heard. So yeah, Stephanie Shu. She was my number 4.
That was Colin's number 3, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Which
Yeah.
leads us to my number 3. My number 3 is Denzel Washington for his role as Macbeth in The Tragedy of Macbeth.
Nice.
I don't really have much to say about this except that it's a masterclass performance. He acting. Like, I feel like when we talk about Denzel Washington, and when I say we, I don't mean us as a podcast. I mean like society as a whole. We oftentimes you'll hear people say that Denzel Washington plays Denzel Washington
Right.
every movie that he does, which is fine. We like Denzel Washington.
We do.
Whatever movie he's in, he's right for the role. It's like, nah, this is a Denzel Washington role. So yeah, Denzel should play Denzel. But in this movie, he's not. He is Macbeth. You can see that acting training, that theatrical training that he has. It's like he knows his way around Shakespeare. I was like watching the movie and I just thought to myself, I don't even see Denzel in this anymore.
Okay.
This is absolutely Macbeth. He's incredible. I said it during our favorite movie podcast. I said that this is possibly the best role that I've seen Denzel Washington in, mostly because I think he disappears into it. I don't feel like I'm watching Denzel Washington. I do feel like I'm just watching this character, which is very impressive because that man is so famous. There does come a time where you get to a certain point of fame where it's hard to see you as anything other than who you are.
Right.
Like a lot of people feel that way about Will Smith. Like I can't get past the fact that it's Will Smith, depending on what role it is. Like
Right.
people have that complaint about big movie stars often, but he really does disappear into Macbeth. I'm like, yeah, I'm looking at you and I'm seeing Denzel Washington, but that's not who you're playing right now. That is not who you are in this moment.
Important question.
Yeah.
I think you already know what it is.
No, he does
but-
not make any guarantees because it's a Shakespeare play.
Oh, well, 0 out of 10. Ain't gonna watch it.
At least I don't think he makes any guarantees. I don't know. I haven't seen this movie since January.
Fair.
He's been on my actors list since January, and I have not watched the movie again since then, but it's super good. And he's amazing in it. So yeah, my number 3 is Denzel Washington.
Nice.
Number 2.
My number 2. So I talked about how Laura Linney is sometimes given the best performances on Ozark, and sometimes it's Julia Garner.
I was about to say, I know who
Julia
number 2
Garner
is.
Is my number 2. Ruth is my girl. She was also on a show called Inventing Anna. I didn't see much of it, so I can't really count that here, but she was good.
I think she got nominated for an Emmy for both roles, actually.
She did. She got nominated for lead actress for Inventing Anna, and she won supporting actress for Ozark. She also won that Emmy for Ozark in 2020 and in 2019 because they know what's up, and she's fantastic. Oh my God, Julia Garner. She's been one of the best. She's been the best part of the show for 4 seasons, and I would never stop giving her flowers for it. I legitimately sat down and turned on Inventing Anna on Netflix just because she's in it. I have 0% interest in the story that show is telling, but I saw Ruth and I was like, I gotta give it a shot. There's too much TV. I didn't finish it, but she's good.
There is too much TV.
There's too much TV. But I definitely finished Ozark. It's fantastic. I don't know if I can say that she's outdone herself because she's always great, but the scene that I always go back to, and it's the one I told you guys before, probably in January when I was talking about this the first time. Maybe April. I don't know. The scene when I'm choosing not to do spoilers because I just found out that one of my friends has never seen Ozark. What the hell?
I've never seen Ozark.
Yeah, but it was somebody who I would have expected to have seen it. But spoiler redacted, gets popped. Ruth is upset. She goes to confront the birds because she knows that they can tell her who did it and how to find this person. She just goes off. She's screaming. She's throwing out obscenities as she always does, but now there's this level of anger, and not even just anger, but passion and just heartbreak in it. She says the line, if you want to stop me, you're going to have to kill me. But she says it in a way that I could never do justice to. And every time I see it, I get chills. And Julia Garner's just fantastic. If you've seen Ozark, you know exactly what I'm talking about. That's my number 2. She was number 1 on my list until this morning when I changed it just because my number 1 was someone who was in more stuff that I've seen. And
Fair.
yeah, did things that there's a certain level of range there. Julia's in this list because of one particular performance. So it's amazing. But I just had to slide her down to number 2 just because I love number 1 so much. But she easily could have been number 1 for her performance. Colin,
Me.
who
Number
you got
2.
coming in at number 2?
My number 2 is Bailey Bass for playing Claudia in Interview with the Vampire.
She is also in Avatar: The Way of Water.
This is true. I have not seen that one. So
She's
I'm just
very
basing
good
it
in that
on
one, too.
Interview with the Vampire. Because, that show is fucking near flawless as it is. But when she comes in, there's a whole new energy.
As always, as it should be with Interview with the Vampire, Claudia should come in and just change everything.
She completely does. It just like completely changes the show. It changes the main character's dynamic. She adds her own. I was already really into the show, and then she showed up, and I was like, oh no, this is amazing. Just the struggle of being. I think she is 14 when she's turned into a vampire.
Okay, cool. So they aged her up.
I think she's
'Cause
14.
I think in the book she's like child. She might be like 12.
They still, address that, and she still talks about that, and like,
Well,
wow,
yeah.
I'm gonna be 14 forever. This sucks.
Yeah, that's kind of like the theme of her character is turning
Mhm.
people before they're able to
But like
be
just
mature.
the way that she fits into everything, and like the way that she and Louis interact, and the way that she and Lestat interact, like when they play chess with each other, and it's so intense, and just like, God, she is acting in a show full of people who are acting, but she is acting.
I really want to watch that show. I need to get on that because I was really excited for it.
Extremely highly recommend it.
And I like the idea of the character of Claudia. And I think I liked Claudia in the movie Interview with the Vampire.
I feel like you would love her in this.
I'm sure I've seen one scene of her actually. The scene where she is wandering through the house and then she ends up on like the balcony or the parapet and she looks down and there's a guy in a carriage passing by and she's like got a flower in her hand and she's like, if he looks at me, he loves me.
Oh
Something like
yeah, that guy. Man, that's rough.
Yeah.
Hey, the whole show is rough. That's kind of the show.
Vampires. Yeah, I saw
But,
that scene
like,
and she was very good
yeah.
in that.
Just for the way that the show completely shifts when she comes into it and how much she does for the show, like she's so good.
She's also, but like I said, yeah, she's also really good in Avatar: The Way of Water. She's in there quite a bit. So yeah, it's a 3-hour movie. Yeah, she's in there a bit. She plays the Sea Chief's daughter.
Okay. When he says "I see you" in the trailer.
Yes, that's her, and it looks like her too. I mean, the CGI makes these people look like they're actors.
Okay.
The Na'vi look like they're actors.
Got it.
Just slightly uncanny because they look like aliens as well.
Yes.
So my number 2 is Zendaya for her role as Rue Bennett in Euphoria. Specifically one particular episode. There was one episode this season where Rue spends most of the first half of the season relapsing. If you don't know anything about Euphoria, Zendaya plays a drug addict who is supposed to have quit, is supposed to be sober. She relapses at the end of season 1. So season 2, we're seeing the results of that as it gets worse and worse and worse, to the point where she tricks a drug dealer into giving her drugs to quote unquote sell. But really, she's getting high on her own supply.
Yikes.
And she's going to have to find a way to pay back $10,000 to a very horrifying drug dealer, which that actually comes up as to why I chose her on this list. Rue gets confronted. Her mom finds out from her girlfriend that she's using again. The confrontation that occurs from that. Rue breaks down a door.
Goodness gracious.
And we watch Zendaya tear this door down, basically. And it's a screaming match between her mother and Storm Reed's character. Storm Reed plays her younger sister. And it's this whole big confrontation. And it shifts just slightly when she realizes that her girlfriend is in the next room listening to the whole thing. This confrontation leads to her mom being like, we have to get you into rehab. We're taking you to rehab. Get in the car. Let's go.
Right.
And from there, Rue escapes the car at a stoplight and then spends the rest of the episode running away, trying to avoid being caught. Zendaya is so freaking good in this episode because this episode is all about her. It is following her on this journey through this city, trying to escape, trying to avoid being taken to rehab. And she's just clearly so not there. And she is doing things that any person in their right mind would go, that's dangerous. That's a bad idea. She's running from cops. She's climbing over gates and fences. Zendaya is so good at playing Rue, it's ridiculous. I feel like you watch her on Disney Channel, that's where she started out. And it's yeah, she's a good actor. And then you see her in Euphoria and you're like, bro, she's a fantastic actor. She's incredible. And then she has really funny moments as Rue too within the scope of her being on drugs, because her outing her ex-friend's sister, hilarious. But also throughout the rest of the season, she tries to, she starts trying to get clean again. I feel like I talk a lot about the characters that these actors are playing, but it's mostly because what they have to do in order to play these characters is so much.
Right.
There's a lot to do. Playing a drug addict cannot be easy, especially to the level that Zendaya is playing this character.
Yeah.
And Zendaya does not seem like that person.
No.
So she's playing somebody who is totally not her. And she plays her with a level of empathy and in a way that makes you watch. And if you feel empathy for Rue, then any addict that you meet, you should feel that same empathy for, because that's what they're going through. Because what she's playing feels... Zendaya is acting this out and it feels so real, even though it's on TV.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you know Rue and you really do want her to get better. And you want her to stop making these decisions. But also you understand that she's a drug addict. It's hard to get off of these things.
Yeah.
She's amazing throughout Euphoria, but that one particular episode, there's always one particular episode where Zendaya does something,
right?
And it's just like, that's it. That's the Emmy right there.
Yeah.
That episode was the Emmy.
Okay.
And then like season 1, there was like the door scene.
Yeah, that's what I keep
everybody,
seeing. Kept saying at the time.
When I saw that episode, I was like, Emmy. When I saw this episode, I was like, Emmy. And guess what? She won both those Emmys. So she's really good. So yeah, my number 2 is Zendaya for playing Rue Bennett on Euphoria.
Nice. It's time for number 1.
But before we go to our number 1s, I have Gaby's list.
Gaby exists.
Wah, wah, wah. All right, guys, let's check it out. So for Gaby's list, her honorable mentions are Aaron Taylor Johnson,
Nice.
the cast of Reservation Dogs, and Joseph Quinn.
Ah, Joseph Quinn. He was great.
He was. Number 10, Brett Goldstein, purely for that cameo in Thor Love and
I
Thunder.
was like, what did he do this year? But,
That.
all right. That's funny.
Number 9, Aubrey Plaza. Number 8, Jennifer Coolidge. Somebody has clearly been watching The White Lotus. I have too. It's amazing. Number 7, Paulina Alexis. Number 6, Charlotte Nickdow.
I love her.
Number 5, Lisa Ann Walter. Number 4, Cheryl Lee Ralph. Number 3, Brian Tyree Henry.
Hey.
She said low-key it's him and Aaron Taylor Johnson as a duo, but she picked Brian to be on the list.
Fair.
Number 2, Tatiana Maslany.
Okay.
And number 1, Keke Palmer.
Nice. Dang it, Gabby. You should have been here. We could have talked about Kiki.
I know, right?
Okay.
All right. Number 1,
Did
Dallas.
Paulina Alexis do something besides
Reservation Dogs? No. She had a really good part in Reservation Dogs, though.
So she has the cast of Res Dogs and she has Paulina?
Technically, the honorable mentions was the rest of the cast of Res Dogs.
Okay. Got it.
But I didn't want to say that because then I would have been giving it away.
Got it. Number 1, Colin has seen Bullet Train. Demi has seen Atlanta. I've seen both. Brian Tyree Henry is my number 1 favorite actor of 2022.
That makes sense.
I didn't see Causeway, and I don't watch Big Mouth. Turns out he's in both of these things.
Big Mouth, I've heard, is very good, and I've seen scenes from it, and they were hilarious.
Wild. I'm going to focus on the things I've seen. This man's so good in everything. Bullet Train. I don't even know where to start. He's hilarious. His character has this weird earnestness and this affinity for, is it Thomas the Tank Engine? Thomas the Train Engine? Thomas
the Tank Engine.
Yeah. And that runs through the movie in a way that makes it so great. But also the way he plays off of Aaron Taylor Johnson. They're a perfect duo. But just having to pick one of them, it's Brian Tyree Henry. Because knowing who he plays on Atlanta, it kind of colors his other roles for me. Because how far those roles are from Paperboy is just a show of the range. Because that's how I was introduced to him. So when I see him play other characters, and he's in a lot of stuff, but when I see him play a character like this, it's just like, oh man, the range. I was listening to Armchair Expert, Dak Shepard's podcast, and he was talking about how he was unfamiliar with Brian Tyree Henry, but for a second he thought, because he saw Bullet Train and he saw Atlanta, and he thought after seeing Bullet Train, he's like, wait, is he British? And he's just doing a really good American accent in Atlanta?
Which tends to happen in America nowadays.
Right. But it's like, no, he's just really good at being British in Bullet Train. But he's fantastic in that. But man, Paperboy.
That episode, I wanted to fight. I wanted to fight. I was like, the writers have to meet me because why are we doing this to Paperboy?
But he does it so well.
He's so good.
And he's always amazing in his solo episodes, like that, The Woods, stuff like that. But I think my favorite scenes with him are him acting off of the rest of the cast. Usually Darius, because Darius is ridiculous. Like the one you talked about when they're in that sushi restaurant.
Yeah.
And he's just so over everything. And
you want to go to that Popeyes. I don't blame him.
When the dude asked them, oh, would you guys like some, Colin, for context, they're at a sushi restaurant called
It's a fusion restaurant, though.
Yeah. It's run by a black dude.
Okay.
DeMarcus or something like that. Really black name. And, they're like, I don't know how I feel about that. I would rather see some Japanese people in here. And they do things in in some odd ways. But when the server comes over and asks them if they want some warm white Hennessy, the look that Brian gives him, because he has his hands in his head kind of, and he just looks up like, no words needed, but that scene killed me. Everything about it, the serious, the comedy, when Ern is making fun of him, he's like, oh, Mick Alfred had a farm. E-I-E-I-O. His reaction to that.
Oh my gosh, it's one of my favorite scenes.
It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole show. He's like, on that farm, he broke his foot. E-I-E-I-O. And then Alfred says, what the fuck you, what the fuck you. Here, fuck, there, fuck, nigga, I'ma fuck you up. It's amazing.
That was one of my favorite moments of the entire
we
season.
round that like 4 times. Like, go back. But yeah, it's fantastic. Colin, I know you had...
Wait.
What?
That wasn't even the end of it, too.
No, that's true. Because Ern keeps going. Oh, man, I know how to farm. And Alfred interrupts him.
Where he fucked your hoe. Let's go.
Let's go.
It's so good.
It's ridiculous. Colin, you have Brian on your list, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That's got to be for Bullet Train.
Absolutely.
Talk about it.
Yeah. The thing is, like, Bullet Train is one of those movies that it could... Sometimes with movies like that, where it's like everybody in every character is wacky, it can get a little too much.
Yeah.
But I feel like his character was the perfect, like, not antidote to that, because he also had his eccentricities, but like just the way he played everything.
Yeah.
Of just like, I'm so tired. And his whole like, this person's a Percy shit. Like, oh my God.
Fantastic.
All the Thomas the Tank Engine stuff was just so good, and the way it like went throughout the movie, and he just acting,
love it,
man, is good.
He is fantastic, and that's why he's my favorite actor of the year, 2022. Colin,
me,
who your fave?
So I try to limit myself to one ensemble per list, just because I don't know, ensembles feel like a sort of a cop out in a way.
Which is why I try to avoid them, but I couldn't this year.
I do my best.
So my ensemble and my number one is the cast of Yellow Jackets.
Hey, okay.
Nice.
Because that show slaps, and it's carried so much by the actors who have to play, you know, there's a young version of the characters and there's an older version of some of the characters. And the way that, like, all of that makes sense. You can see how the younger version became the older version. Everybody is just so good and believable. Like, it's one of those things, right? Because as a casting director, how, you know, you got to be on your shit if you're going to cast two versions of the same character, a younger and older, and they're like, they got to be able to play off each other like that. And man, such a great job. Everybody does such a great job. And that show slaps. And it's just, as a unit, they just all work together so well. Damn, that show slaps.
Nice. Love that.
There's a saying about casting, and I cannot think of what it is. Because I can't remember what the percentage is.
It's like 90%?
Yeah, it's like...
directing is casting or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard that one. But yeah, you got to have the right people.
Yeah, if you don't have the right people,
won't be great.
It's not going to happen. Christina Ricci is also fantastic on Wednesday.
Is she in Yellow Jacket? Is she a jacket?
She is.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
She's one of the jackets.
She's one of the jackets. Colin just don't want to give nobody no shout-outs out here.
I don't look at names. They know who they is.
Melanie Linsky, Christina Ricci, Ella Purnell, Juliette Lewis, Sophie Thatcher, other people. Samantha Henrati. Another Sophie. Sophie Nalise.
All right. Cool. My number one. I'm going to be honest. Y'all should have seen this coming. It's Lily James for her role as Pamela Anderson in Pam and Tommy.
You say y'all should have seen this coming. That shit came out at the beginning of the year, and then everybody...
Colin, time is a construct. So...
Hey, run it back.
Brought it back. Yeah, she's been on my list all year since I think the show premiered in February. Lily James is already, first off, one of my favorite actresses. I've seen most of her work. I'm not going to say I've seen all of it. I definitely haven't, but I've seen most of it. And she completely disappears into this role. I remember when the pictures first came out of her as Pam Anderson, and everybody was just like, that's not Lily James. I can't even see her in there.
I definitely said that. It's like, who's that?
She disappears into that makeup and into the prosthetics, and she becomes Pamela Anderson. But it's not just the physicality of it. You also need the performance. And the performance also consists of the physicality. Obviously, her movements are changed, and she is different because Pamela Anderson seems to be a very different person than who I know Lily James to be through her interviews and stuff. I don't know her personally, but based on how she presents herself, I would say that they're very different people. And then on top of that, the internality of her performance as well. the emotion that she's bringing to it, because this is a series that has a very difficult subject matter about consent and about how society put these two people through this terrible thing where they watched their sex tape that was stolen from them and that was made public for the world to see. That's not an easy thing to go through, and it completely changed their lives. She's not in the first episode very much. She is in 2 scenes of the first episode. The first one has only music. And the second one, she has 1 or 2 lines, and then she's gone for the rest of the episode. But the second episode, where she is where she finally comes in, because it focuses in mostly on her and Tommy. And her and Sebastian Stan, them as a duo, they're so good together in these 2 roles. They fade away into these characters. Episode 3 is when I really, already, because of Lily is not like Pamela Anderson. She's not even American. Well, Pamela Anderson is also not American. She's not Canadian. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's not Canadian. She doesn't naturally have that accent. She doesn't sound like that.
Right.
She's obviously pitching up her voice to sound different. She's adding a rasp to her voice as well, which she has said she and Sebastian Stan used to scream into pillows before doing takes so that they could get the rasp in their voice.
That's gracious.
There's a difference to her voice. There's a difference to the way that she's speaking. She talked a lot about how there is a cadence to the way that Pamela Anderson speaks that she had to learn. She listened to a lot of the interviews that Pamela Anderson has done so that she could pick up on her manner of speaking. Mm-hmm. So automatically, from the first episode where we really see her, and she is playing this very, very well. Mm-hmm. Episode 3 is when we really start getting into the emotional aspects of it and getting deeper into who this person is. Her scene at the end of episode 3 where the PR person asks her who she looks up to, and she says Jane Fonda. And the monologue that she gives, first off, is a wonderfully written monologue. It's clear from Lily's performance that this is a role model for her because she does want to be all of these things. Mm-hmm. And these are all of the things that she could have been had we not made her out to be something else. Mm. Had we not stuck Pamela Anderson into the box of being a sex object. She could have been all these things that are in this monologue. Mm. And then just as each episode goes on, the performance it just builds. It's not even like, oh, she's like really good in this particular episode. It just builds from there. It gets better and better with every episode. Episode 6, I think, is the episode where she has to do the deposition. And when I tell you that I was angry, I felt so much anger for the position that she's in. Lily has to play the happiness of the early days of their relationship, but she also has to play like she's being attacked by these men who have isolated her and put her alone in this situation that she doesn't want to be in, forcing her to answer questions that demean her, and they're asking them particularly to embarrass her and to shame her. You can see that in her face and in the way that she's acting. You can see her defensiveness, her anger, but also you can see the restraint because she can't fight back. There's only so much that she can do in this situation. Mm-hmm. There's so much to her performance. I remember watching the show and going, oh, this is, as I said, I've seen most of her work. This is legitimately the best performance Lily James has ever given. Nice. Which is why she was nominated for an Emmy, obviously. I think I said this about Stephanie Hsu, about how she had there's obviously no inhibition. There is no shame in what she's doing. Lily James is also one of those actors where she goes into something. You don't see an ounce of shame or self-consciousness in what she's doing. If she's playing the role, she's playing it. Right. I've seen her do a lot of period pieces. I think I've seen her play real people. I've seen her do stories that are based on reality. Okay. I've seen her do stuff like that, but this is completely different from anything she's ever done. And she is perfection in it, which is why she deserves that Emmy nomination and every other nomination that she's been getting for this role. I could talk for days about how good of a job she does as Pam Anderson in the show. I won't, at least not on this podcast, but I would love to. My number 1 is one of my favorite actresses, Lily James, for Pam and Tommy. And that ends our episode, our favorite actors of 2022.
We did it.
Yes.
We all did it. Audience, you did it. You got through it. Thank you for listening to all of that. As always, thank you to Crown Digital, Brandon, and Io for putting us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Dimby, thank you for editing, putting us on YouTube. Repping for the fantasy fans, because you had some dragons, you had some D&D, some other stuff that I think is D&D.
Some Afrofuturism.
Yeah, look at that. You know your brand. Colin, thank you for making it to the list. Repping for the Yellow Jackets fans, even though you wouldn't name the people in it for some reason.
Because he's Colin.
It's all good. It's all good. But yeah, audience, what do you think of our list? Who's on your list? Let us know in the comments. Or hit us on Twitter at y'all_different, Instagram and Tumblr at Creative Differences Podcast, Facebook.com/Creative Differences PC, or TikTok at Creative Differences Pod. If you want to talk to me about how Atlanta and Ozark are the best comedy and drama of 2022, respectively, find me on Twitter and Instagram at a king named Simba.
Talk to me about stuff. I don't know. Find me on Twitter and Instagram at Duck McGuck.
You guys can Wow, I don't know. I don't even know which one of these things to point out. You know what? Talk to me about actors who just completely disappear into their roles. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dreamy Films. Dreamy is spelled DREEMI. I cannot wait till next year because I am definitely going to have some Willow actors on here. Tune in tomorrow. We will be talking about our favorite music artists of 2022.
That one's going to have some varied answers. We are very different people. And you can find Gabby in the Splash Zone. That's where she resides.
The Splash Zone.
Just in the Splash Zone. That's where she's been this whole time. All right, it's been different. Bye.
Bye.
Speaking of Gabby, I'm very upset.
Why?
Because she's not here. I would definitely throw her in the Splash Zone just for Zazi's character in The Bad Guys.
Oh, no.
Oh.
But I can't because she's not here. She's dodging the allegations. She's not beating them. She's dodging them.
Oh, no.
She escaped this year.
Yeah, she's evading the allegations.